Welcome back to the AnyVoices podcast. I'm your host, Mel Allen, and today I am joined by Andrew Lander. Now, Andrew is known for business casual voiceovers. I really like that. And AndrewLanderVO.com if people want to check you out. And I think you've got an interesting story, a little bit of a different take than a lot of people who come at this from, maybe broadcasting or maybe acting with a lot of people. Tell us a little bit about how you got started and how that ended up pivoting and shifting into voiceover.
Well, Mel, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate the time you're taking out to talk to me. Yeah, business casual voiceovers, that's a combination of me just really trying to figure out what I thought my strengths would be getting into voice acting.
Right.
And then also just going based on my own background as someone who didn't get into acting as a kid. I didn't do theater. I didn't do plays. The closest thing I did to that was a Hershey's Kiss in the first grade in the Nutcracker play that we did, and there was a lot of aluminum foil. I don't think there was any crying,
Well, that's
but
good.
either way, it meant that my acting prowess kind of stopped there, at least at
Right.
that point. And so my dad and my mom, they always said, "Look, you need to get behind the podium. You need to do public speaking."
Yep.
Because just like, they know that, like everyone else, they know that that's something that is really scary to a lot of people. I've met
Yeah. And
people
it's a
that
it's a valuable skill to have no matter what you're doing.
absolutely, because there are a lot of people that will not do it if their lives depended on it. They'd rather be,
True.
6 feet under. And so every chance I got, or every
Mhm.
chance my parents got, they shoved me in front of the mic and said, "You speak now.
Right.
You've written it down. You talk." And at first, I was nervous and it's not
Sure.
something I really wanted to do. But then elementary school through high school, it's something that I got used to. And in the corporate world, I did a lot of marketing work,
Okay.
communications work. And in doing that, the presentations that I did and being able to address people in a room both as one large group and then but also doing it individually, it made me
Right.
even more comfortable projecting. And so I got my kind of business casual vibe from that, just in business. And so that's kind of how I started with not having an acting background. And then the business casual voice actor, like the business casual VO, uh, I don't know, personality or brand. That happened because I took a self-assessment, like a
Okay.
brand assessment, and I said, okay, what do I sound like? And what do I want to sound like? And then where is that Venn diagram, like, middle
Right. Where's that
section?
crossover?
Exactly. So I asked people, I said, how do I come across? And I said, well, you can be a little bit serious at times. And I said, okay, that makes sense. And then other people said, you sound trustworthy. And I said, okay, that's great. And then, some other people said, well, if you smile, you sound trustworthy. If you don't smile, then you can sound mean. And I said, how can I leverage that into something that's positive?
Right.
So in researching voice acting, um, and I when I first heard about it, I was like, I want to do this. And it took me about like 90 days to research everything before I even made that first leap into coaching. And
You sound a lot like me. I'm I'm a born researcher, so I research a lot. Now hold on because I just wanted to point this out. It sounds
oh
like
yeah,
it was a random blog, right? That you kind of found out
yes,
about voiceover on.
it was. When I was so this was it wasn't that long ago. It was 2019. It was, although it seems like it was forever ago, right? Pre-corona.
Right.
Um, I was looking for something to do on the side
Hmm.
because my third child was going to be born in about a month. And just like I do with every kid, I was freaking out like, oh my goodness, are we going to have enough for diapers? And, I knew that we were going to be fine anyway.
It's a
But
fair and reasonable concern.
yeah, the inner planner was like, okay, we plan for everything, but can I do more?
Right.
And so, I just typed in, side gigs. And I had one before. Or I had a side gig doing marketing consulting. like SEO and things like that. So I had some experience in running my own business just by myself. So I came upon this website and it was like 60 things that you can do on the side. And I can't remember which number it was. Maybe it was like 52. And it said 52 voice acting. I was like, huh, that sounds like something I might be interested in. And it was an article about Carrie Olson, who is a big
Oh,
name in
okay.
the industry, and she does a lot of e-learning and a lot of other things too. But what really got me interested, she's a person of color. She's a mom with 2 kids, and she was in a small market. I think it was like in somewhere in Missouri. And at that point, I was in Montgomery, Alabama, and I'm thinking that's as small as you can get to a certain extent.
Yeah, yeah, there's definitely, I mean, I'm from a small market myself. It's, it's one of those things that you got time, you don't have a lot going on. Hey, why not voiceover?
Exactly. So then all those things, I was like, wow, she's in a small market and she can do all this stuff and she's in the corporate world as well. That really appeals to me. And so yeah, then I just kind of went off to the races and just did all this research and started listening to tons of podcasts, and that's where I think I learned like 75% of everything about voice acting from that point in time was just consuming podcasts like cereal.
Yeah, that's, it's amazing. There's a lot of information that's out there. And really, it's all about being, like you said, being a small business owner, being an entrepreneur. A lot of people kind of forget that, being in voiceover and voice acting, it really is, you're in business, you are having to do all of those same things that you have to do for business. You got to do accounting, you got to do some marketing, you got to have, web and social media presence. You've got to do, the SEO and all of those things. And so the more familiar you are with all of those things, the more successful you're going to be, I think. And the good thing about a lot of people who have gone to some sort of business or marketing is that you've got skills that can pivot really quickly and really easily to like you said, you went through a brand exercise and, did that Venn diagram, seeing where things cross over. And that's an exercise that everybody needs to do. Sometimes people think you just need to do it once, but it's one of those things where it's kind of almost like an annual, put it on your radar. Um,
Absolutely.
for me, one of the slow times of the year is that kind of post Christmas, pre uh, Valentine's Day kind of
Mhm.
pause. And so early January is one of those times when I look at that. I look at my SEO. I look like how I'm talking about my brand, and it's a great thing for people to do. And kind of experiment and try new things, whether that's voiceover, voice acting, or some other kind of gig. But okay, so this is 2019. You're on a blog, you start researching, and you get a coach. Is that kind of the next step that you did? Is that you kind of got a coach to see if you had any skills, if this was something that was possible for you?
That's exactly what happened. So after the initial research, prior to this, I had gotten off of Facebook because I was just tired of, having to unfollow people and,
Mhm.
it was just getting stressful. I didn't want to look at my phone every day and be, stressed out. So I had made it a point in 2018 to just get off of Facebook.
Right.
I deleted it from my phone. I still have my profile, but I took it off my phone and I didn't check it at all. And so, uh, I saw something somewhere that said, "You know what? You should really get involved in a voiceover community,
Okay.
especially Facebook." And I was like, "Ah, I
Yeah.
gotta get back on Facebook now." So I joined a Facebook group, and the leaders of one of the Facebook groups, Terry Daniel,
Okay.
he
Yeah.
reached out to me and said, "Oh, you wanna join the group? Why?" And my fingers started typing furiously. It's like, "'Cause I know this, and I wanna learn this, and this," and then he goes, "Ah, I see that, you kinda did a little bit of research?" I said, "Yeah, a little bit." And so I said, "Look, it sounds like you really know what you wanna get into. Why don't you just take the plunge and do coaching?" And I was like, "Huh." Let me get back to you. Long story short, he made me an offer I couldn't refuse, and I said, "Yeah, if I'm gonna do this, let me go ahead and do it. But first, let me check with my significant other because
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of time and commitment. At this point, my third child, who again I was freaking out about and trying to figure out if I was, going to do a side business, just to buy extra diapers or whatever. Yeah, he was at this point a couple months old,
Okay.
and you know, I have work duty, I have daddy duty, I have husband duty. I don't want to do this without the blessing of my wife. So my business plan wasn't so much for me; it
Hmm.
was for my wife. And so I made a business plan and, wrote down, what the costs were gonna be, what the time frame I thought realistically could be. And no one can really say how long it'll take you to, make a profit or anything like that, but
Right.
you try to get it as best as you can with knowing what the industry is like and knowing what other people have done. So, I said, okay, person A has done this, person B has done this, and I had to admit to my wife, I said, a lot of people who do this come from an acting background.
Right.
A lot of people who do this also come from a radio background. And she
Hmm.
goes, well, you're not any of that. So what makes you think you're gonna, be successful in this? Which sounds harsh, but if you don't have those harsh conversations,
You got to ask the hard questions. You
and
really do.
and thank goodness my wife is completely honest because she's like, "Look, if this is gonna be a waste of time, then, it may be a fun thing to do, but, maybe we focus on other things like everything else we have going on." So, I made the plan. I had, the estimated figures, the estimated time frames,
Yeah.
and I said, "Look, I think I can really make this work." By the time, we get to the end of 2020.
Right.
So that's how that kind of that's how that came to be. And then when I found the Facebook group and found the coach, I made my business plan. I passed the test. I was able to convince my wife, and she said it looked good. And I said, "Okay, Terry, let's do
Let's do
this."
this.
Yep,
Well, good. Terry's actually a good guy. We've worked together in the past, and he and I have done some coaching together and things. So I would say definitely if you're looking out there, Terry's got a great group that's on Facebook, and it's been a while since I've actually been on it, so I'm drawing a blank on the name of it. But feel free to name drop him. I know Terry'd love that. So
I know he's on a VO Camp. That was the
VO
one
Camp, that's right.
that I had joined.
So, and yeah, Terry's got a whole team of his own now that he works with, and so he's got other coaches. So if he's not the right fit, there are other people in his camp who are, and I love that. I love the fact that he realizes that you know it's that's a very important thing to let people know in voiceover is that that one coach that you end up making the phone call to might not be the right one, and
Mhm,
it's okay to look around. As a matter of fact, you should look around. It's just like a car. If you're going to get into a new car, you don't just jump into the one that's closest to you. You take a couple for a test drive. You find out what it is that you like, if you have some shared goals and purpose, and if they're good for you. And I think that, you know, you did some research, so you probably already knew enough that it kind of didn't matter. But some people who are just kind of getting into this, make a call, make a couple of calls, ask people that like, hey, who do you recommend? Who's somebody that I can look out for out there? And I always want to caution people of this, and I always say, be careful of people who are trying to bundle everything together. Your coaching should start out in a very separate path than your demo and other things. So they may they may cross over in the future, but um, coaching initially when you're getting started is basically just to see if you really, again, like you, have a good plan, you get a good voice, you've got your pieces in place to actually make this something that's successful. Because a lot of people get into this and maybe they've got some extra money, but a lot of people who get into it, I know, haven't. And,
mhm.
if you don't want to waste that money, you want to use it well, kick the tires, kick the tires and test things out. Um, and definitely check into this. So, all right, so now you've got this whole background, you've gotten behind the podium. A lot of times, again, public speaking people, it is a fantastic way of getting out there and practicing in front of people. And here's a great thing: if you do it for a job, they still pay you, right? So
That's right.
it's paid training. And so you get your coach and you're out there. And how did 2020 go for you? I mean, we're in the beginning parts of 2021. How are things kind of looking for you with your plan?
So when I first started the coaching, and I started with Terry, and then most of it actually was with his colleague Rob Marley,
Yeah.
and we went through virtually, just going over the technique, and in between classes, in between sessions, I would practice every single day and go over different scripts, and then email him and bug the heck out of him. How does this sound? How does this sound? And if he would say, tweak this, I would tweak it and then send it back before having another session with him. Like I made it my duty to not go on to the next class, because I knew that I had like 4 or 5
Yeah.
until I had mastered whatever it was we had gone over. And then fast forward, into you had mentioned how expensive it can be, with the training and the equipment. I didn't buy any equipment until um, I took advantage of Black Friday.
Yeah.
So in November, I bought a bunch of stuff, and then I didn't record my demo until the first week of March. So
Wow.
starting from learning about what VO was in June 2019, to getting on Facebook, and in August, getting a coach in September, getting my equipment in November, and then not doing a demo until March. So from coaching A to demo B, it's about 9 months, I think.
Hmm.
I think that's about it. Have a nice voiceover baby.
Yeah.
And so March, that was such a weird month, because
Yeah.
right after that, that's when everything went nuts, and the US locked down. So I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was able to get into a studio the week before everything shut down. So got my demo. Then after that, it was off to the races. I
Hmm.
started emailing places, and submitting my demo to agencies. And I'll be very honest, I didn't see, if we're talking money wise, like, I didn't see very much money until September,
Hmm.
you know? Because and I knew this was a long game. I had maybe like one thing that I had gotten off of Reddit in January, and I was like, "Oh, people like me." And then it was like January to September, I was like, "Oh, people hate me."
Yeah. Well, it's definitely, it can be like that. You can have those ebbs and flows, and I think, um, obviously with all the shutdowns that happened, there were a lot of ebbs, let's just say, and the flows were coming in spurts for me too. And I'm thankful for my regular clients that I had who kept me, kept me afloat. But it was there were a couple of times where I was kind of going through those same things myself. I'm like, self-doubt that I hadn't seen in years, because I was not as busy, and so I had the time to think about that and let that stuff creep in. Um, and I think that one of the ways that a lot of people can avoid that, a coach is a great person to have, and a lot of people will continue having a coach of some sort or along their entire path, right, their entire career. I've been doing this for so long that I don't have a coach anymore. I used to work with a producer on a regular basis, and she just kind of coached me out of, I'm not sure exactly why, but she just spent a lot of time coaching me when I was younger and when I started, and I was so thankful for that. And then when I actually hired my own coaches, I was, kind of knew what I was doing in a way. But accountability buddies is the next way that you can do that. And a lot of people,
Oh,
they
yes.
look for these professional groups that are out there, that you can join them. I know that they're out there, and some of them you pay a nominal fee for the people's time, for the coaches who are doing that and listening to it. But also, you can just have kind of a gathering of people who are all pretty well acquainted with this. They've all gone through coaching, they've all got demos, they're all working voice actors, and just kind of giving your feedback on people. And that's one of the things that I've done with some other people that I know. We've got some members who are pretty inexperienced. There's another member and I who are very experienced. As a matter of fact, she and Terry and I used to all work together at the same place. And
Oh,
so,
that's awesome.
yeah, and so she, Mary Catherine Jones, voiceover Vermont is her name. And so she and I give the, people who are kind of newcomers to this a little bit of kind of like well, from the producer's seat, here's what we're hearing, and they give us, kind of like, well, from the Fresh Ear Society, here's my feedback to you. And it's all good. It's all valid because we all have ears and we all have a mouth. And as long as you can, hear and communicate, I think that you can give each other really good feedback and kind of keep that going and have somebody who's like, hey, how did that pan out? You said you were going to contact that person or that client or,
Hmm.
reach out to some people. How did that go? And then you're like, well, I was about to pick up the phone and I just didn't feel like I was good enough. And, so getting an accountability buddy is a great kind of next step. I'm not sure if you have one, but um,
Oh, I do.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's a great thing to have. So, um, I mean, any experiences you want to share with other people on that? I mean,
Oh, sure thing.
how they've kept you on track.
Oh, yeah. And I second that, third, fourth, fifth, that 100 times over, because you need someone to like stick their finger in your face and be like, hey, you said you were going to do this thing
Right.
with love and with respect. Why the hell didn't you do it? You know? And just like I had said before, like my wife, who's been so supportive of this throughout everything, um, she was that first person who was like, okay, how realistic is this?
Right.
What about what about this thing over here? Like, is this going to, is you being in, a small market, is that going to be an issue when,
Hmm.
many people are doing this in New York and Chicago? We're not New York and Chicago. And so when I had to like go, okay, I have to answer these questions so that not only can I convince her, but I can also be more confident in knowing that this is going to work. That's when, it becomes even more real.
Hmm.
Um, my accountability partners, those fantastic group of colleagues that I have are through Facebook. So
Right.
um, I had joined the voiceover camp group, and I had joined a bunch of other ones, including the African American voice actor database group. And there was a gentleman on there who I had heard his. We post a lot of stuff like ups and downs, things that are happening in the industry, and someone had posted their take on Smaug from The Hobbit, and it sounded so good. And I said, "Hey, how'd you do that with your voice?" Like he put some sort of, I don't know, reverb in it, and he did something with the audio, and he was like, "Oh, I did this," and we started chatting about it. And he said,
Yep.
"Hey, there's this group that I'm in with like a few other people, and it's separate from what we're doing here.
Hmm.
We just kind of, chill and talk about ups and downs, but it's smaller, so you get more of a word in and things like that." And I said, "Yeah, yeah, tell me about it." And he told me that we meet on a weekly basis, and I said, "No." Because at that point,
Right. A week.
I I
It sounds like a lot.
I had just gotten back on Facebook. I
Hmm.
was like, I don't wanna have to commit to people that I don't know who these people are,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
These could be crazy folks, I gotta, put myself out there, and again, it's one of those things where, like, my background isn't in acting. It's hard for me to put on the bell bottoms and the mask and to be silly at times, That's why I do a lot of focus on, e-learning and explainers and corporate narration. So to put myself out there and say, yes, I want you to be able to see my weaknesses and my strengths and
Yeah.
everything in
Exposing
between.
yourself. It's not comfortable for a lot of people.
Oh, I was like, "No, please, uh-uh." And he wrote me this long message and said, "Okay, I understand. Um, but in the voice actor industry, that's, he basically said that's not how we operate. I respect your feelings on it, but, hit me back when you're ready to kind of do how we do." And I took a step back and I said, "You know what? That's really honest feedback. And I don't want to be that person that misses out because, they're feeling some kind of way about putting themselves out there. This is what the industry is. I got to do
Right.
it." So I messaged him back and I said, "All right, I'm in." I didn't hear from him for a month. And I was like, "Oh man, I just missed my
Yeah. Missed my
opportunity."
chance. Yeah.
But long story short, he let me in, and these groups of guys and women have been fantastic. We meet on a weekly basis. We put our fingers in each other's faces and say, "What have you done? What have you done? What have you done?" And we share things that, had we not have shared them, like um, news about agencies, then
Right.
it may be opportunities that we never would have thought were possible. I didn't think to reach out to a particular agency in Chicago
Hmm.
until someone said, "Hey, I just got this thing,
Right.
and now I'm a part of their agency." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's really cool. I want that." And so then, I reach out to them, and then I get on their roster,
Well,
and
there you go.
then like 6 months later, I get signed by them, and it's one of those things where, you meet other people, you share your strengths and weaknesses, and then you hear about these little nuggets that you can act on.
Yeah.
And I mean, Mel, this is how we're meeting right now because one of those people is Damon Allums,
Right.
who
The
you had
urban
on the show.
legend who's been on this podcast before, and
The
you
urban
know,
legend.
the urban legend, and he and I met on Twitter, of all places. So where I spend a lot of my time Twitter and LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook somewhat, but these days I've definitely scaled that back. But yeah, there's so many great people that are out there, and you got to connect with them. You got to communicate with them. And here's the amazing thing that a lot of them are looking forward to it. Like that's why they're there. Because they want to be part of this whole community. They want to connect with other people, and they want to make actually real connections with people. So, I mean, it's all right there. And the good thing is that there isn't a lot of a filter. I mean, yeah, if people are busy, it might be a month before you hear back from them, but you
Mhm.
will hear back from them. And that's the nice thing. And I got to say, uh, I'm out there as well. So if anybody's looking for me, at AnyVoices is me. There's not like some firm or somebody who's posting anything out there. It's all me. My personal is at the Real Voice Mel on just about every social media that I've been able to sign up for. So, um, and Andrew, I know your website is andrewlandervo.com. But how can people kind of reach out to you? If they're like, hey, man, this group sounds exactly like what I need. How do they find you and see if that's maybe the right thing?
So when it comes to the group, I'm not an admin, so I can't say whether or not it's something that
Yeah,
other people
but maybe
can.
introductions.
Yeah, just because we want to keep it like as small as we can, because you know what happens when things get so big,
Right.
then it loses the magic.
Well, I'm glad
So
that you think that I have that kind of a reach, but
don't tell
so far I
anybody.
don't yet. So.
But if anybody wants to reach out to me, just for anything, just to say hi. So I'm on Twitter at Andrew Lander, AndrewLander, no S. And I'm on Clubhouse, which is really neat, at Andrew Lander as well. On Instagram, it's at Andrew Lander VO.
Nice. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on here. I love the fact that, you came at this from, kind of that business, podium, public speaking angle. I've done a lot of public speaking. A lot of that was kind of forced upon me. I was not happy to do it, but I'm so glad that I did it, and it was for broadcasting. And I was like the new guy, so they're like, send this guy out there, and I just kind of, you know, broke that anxiety, learned how to, make it work for me to get out there because it was kind of like, I got to go out there. So I might as well go out there with a smile on my face and,
Hmm.
be amped up to do this. And, it's a valuable skill. I now, get up in front of groups of people sometimes, little notice, if any, and, just talk about something, like if there's a host that doesn't show up, literally one day, the place that I was working at part time was just like, do you have a suit? And I was like, I actually happen to have a suit. So they're like, can you go home and just come back as quickly as you can? And I jumped up there and, took over the emceeing of this event and ended up doing it for like 5 or 6 years. So, that was just one of those ended up being a great paid gig. and um and you can get those, and still have a voiceover career running parallel to that. And it can be a great thing. And also really teaches you a lot about interacting directly with people, right? Because you're up there, you've got to be authentic. You've got to, if you're going to hold that, if you're going to hold the audience, you've got to learn how to make it exciting, make it interesting, even if you're talking about something that's pretty basic and pretty boring. So I'm preaching to the choir, I know, on this, but um, it's definitely been a pleasure. We should probably wrap it up. I don't want this to get too long, but it's definitely been great, really connecting with you. And I look forward to seeing more of you and, sharing more of your story and, more connections with you to grow that base of yours out there.
Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure, and have a good one. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, I will look for more success from you coming up in the near future.